Welcome to another weekend here on the platform. My name is Sam Omashaye. On the program this weekend, May 29, 1999 marked a new dawn for Nigeria democratically. Then Head of State Abdul Salami Abubakar handed over power to Olusegun Obasanjo, heralding civilian rule after several failed attempts by the country to run a democracy. Nigerians had hoped that the government of the people by the people would better handle issues plaguing the country. But 20 years after, those same issues have remained. Another 4 years for the Buhari administration, a chance of baton or to change baton in 12 states and continuity in others. What should they be focusing on? Public affairs analyst Gbola Oba, the red cap chief, I'm not too sure your cap is red today, joins me after a very long layoff. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for the opportunity once again. Always a pleasure to be on your set.
20 years of democracy. What would you say are the ups and downs of these 20 years?
The ups are quite
few and far between.
Few and far between. It is always a thing of joy to know that we are democratizing. We're trying to be not quite a democracy, and we are at least engaging ourselves as people who believe that human beings should not be jackbooted around and be treated like school kids, the way the military used to treat us. Not that members of our political class are any better in some respects, but at least tenure limitation or term limitation for the chieftains of the executive arm of government gives us a degree of change of guards.
Yes, and then you also have the overarching presence of the judiciary, in spite of its flaws.
In spite of its flaws, naturally, we are a bit more engaged to the point where we even question the integrity of some of the judicial pronouncements. At any point in time, like in all matters like that, you would have the pros and the cons. But having said that, democracy is a worthy governance experiment that I think I prefer.
Yeah, but what are the we can go to the downs later. One of the things that have been said to be the up, and one of the greatest ups of this democracy is actually strange for anywhere else in the world, but in Nigeria, it is regarded as actually a watershed moment. That was when Jonathan conceded defeat to Muhammadu Buhari in 2015.
That was one of the reasons why I said we are quite a democratizing country, not quite a democracy. Landmark events such as that would be recorded, could easily be recorded as one of the triumphant phases of the experimentation. But as at this juncture, it is still largely an experimentation, because even the re-election of the incumbent is being questioned by some people. There are some people who are
out there. It's part of the democratic exercise.
It's part of the democratic process anyway.
Yes. Now, we have had a number of heads of states, or we call them presidents constitutionally, since 1999. We had Olusegun Obasanjo, who had 8-year run. It was followed by Yar'Adua, who's
barely could do 3.
Yeah, because of illness. So it was also stagnated by the paralysis of his health. And then we moved on to Goodluck Jonathan, who was there for 5 years, 1 full term, and the remainder of Yar'Adua's term. And then now we have Muhammadu Buhari. in the time of Obasanjo, which was supposed to be like the trailblazer for this democracy, people have said that we had a lot of lost opportunities to really cement democracy, one of which was the fact that we had certain things that were regarded as impunity in the democratic era. It is said then, and it is said now, and some people have attributed it to the fact that we still suffer some of the overhang of the military era.
Inevitably, we were not going to have an experiment that was totally different and distant from what Obasanjo gave us. This is a gentleman who, from about the age of 18 or 19, was assimilated into the military, spent the better part of his life in the military, retired as a military head of state, in wanting to transmutate to being a civilian leader or a democratic leader, the military instincts were still in him. He had to look at the nature of the parliament under Obasanjo. At a point, it was decapitation galore in the Senate.
Yeah, but is that even justified? The fact that you're a military man and you become a civilian.
Nobody's justifying it.
No, what I'm just saying, does that really follow? Because in history we've had people who were civilians who really blended into democratic tenets. We had Washington.
Not quite. You needed
we had
to.
Washington. You had Gbola.
The Gbola too.
He had problems with it, but he had to yield. He had to yield to the Fifth Republic.
I was going to give you the example of the Gbola for Obasanjo, and indeed Buhari.
Yes.
There is a stage you get to in life that the mannerisms that you've been used to would first drive you until you probably meet a greater force on the road. Yes. The Gbola, at a point, wanted to be as swashbuckling as Obasanjo was.
Yeah, he wanted to be, but he was checkmated by the system. Ours couldn't checkmate.
Ironically, not so much by the system, but by the fervency of the French youth.
That is the system. The system threw them up.
Let me consider
that. We're talking about the revolt of the 1960s.
Of the 1960s, by the French students.
Yes. Almost as if we are seeing something of that with the yellow jacket.
With the yellow jacket, which is gradually losing coherence. Yes. But then it made the Gbola to realize
that it was no longer, this is not a military regime.
But having said that, they served at a relatively lower rank to say, when you mentioned Churchill, Churchill was more of a journalist than a soldier.
But indeed, in war, he followed the regiment.
The Boer War.
His father made sure that if father didn't have any confidence in him, and he made sure that very early he put him to the military school. And he rose.
He went to the military academy. So he went. But unfortunately, he didn't quite rise much. But discovered a niche,
which was his capacity to express
journalism. And you must remember that his initial forte in journalism was covering wars, the Boer Wars.
Yeah.
So now, if you want to juxtapose that with anybody in Nigeria, probably Olusegun Obasanjo, whose propensity rose far higher than than Churchill did, but propensity to write. Because you must remember that since he even left, he finished his presidential tenure, he's written
become a writer.
Prolific writer indeed.
Not necessarily a great writer, but at least
prolific. even when one is trying to doctor history and
has always been
pancake facts.
We talk about Trump trying to distort history and so on. He probably was learning from Obasanjo. Obasanjo was there before him.
He's not quite as erudite as Obasanjo.
Not quite, but at least the same spirit.
Obasanjo
the same spirit of trying to make sure that you turn history to your own image.
I tell people that Obasanjo is one of the best students of Churchill we have in Africa.
Churchill who will fail if Churchill gave him a test.
Churchill once said that, you know what? History will ultimately
No, he said history will be kind to me because I intend to write it. And he did.
And he even won
the Nobel Prize.
Many people, many watching this program this morning may not even know that Churchill won the Nobel
Prize, yes.
for literature.
Yes.
You know? But Obasanjo, I wish Baba well.
Well, you know what, you talk about the impunity of that time. One of the acts of impunity was Kanubiam, Odi, and then he had the EFCC go after his political enemy, which something that he probably had in common with Richard Nixon, who reportedly drew up an enemies list. You know,
those ones may even be better. The EFCC. There was a peculiar phenomenon that happened under Obasanjo, which was very ungratifying, very disturbing. The eliminations of some characters. I am not alleging. I am not in any way, shape, or form alleging that Obasanjo was privy to it, but some major political chieftains.
It was an atmosphere of us losing people and so on. Could it be that it was a layover from the military era? We're trying to adjust. So many people died, including the great Gbola Oba.
And as we speak, none of those assassinations
have been resolved.
It's very disturbing.
But we move now to the time of Yar'Adua. Yar'Adua seemed to be a man who was in many ways anti-Obasanjo. He was cool at the beginning, very, very reserved and very dignified. And suddenly war began in Boko Haram. His sickness was aggravating, Boko Haram began.
Before you go into Boko Haram, it showed some intellectual creativity in the way he handled the Niger Delta issue.
Yes, he was the one that actually started the whole idea of engaging.
Obasanjo started engaging. You must remember that there was a time when it was reported that some of these militants went into Aso Rock during the time of Obasanjo, bearing arms across there. Obasanjo started engaging, but it was Yar'Adua through his vice president then who ultimately became president, who unshook them to peace, to relative peace. And things calmed down. The Niger Deltans had a sense of, you know what?
We now belong to this country.
We started to think they could.
They
could. Because if I tell people I'm not from the Niger Delta, but if I were to have come from Niger Delta, I probably wouldn't have done any better than some of these. Maybe the level of education saved people like you. The quality of education you had. But you must remember that those who ultimately decided to vent through military...
Don't make the mistake. There were university graduates part of the military.
But majority...
number of them.
But majority of those who started labeling themselves generals and whatever were school dropouts. Majority of those who suddenly became overnight generals in the creeks were school dropouts. So those who were well educated, like the guy who's in jail in South Africa, quite well educated, many of them, but those who ultimately did the dirty end.
The foot soldiers.
You know, the government, the Tompolos of this world, the Asari Dokubos of this world, the general whatever, were mainly school dropouts.
But Asari Dokubo has a university today. Now let's move to, because
he has a university in Benin Republic.
But we are now trying to probably pivot into the next 4 years. And today, one of the greatest problems is insecurity. The other one is poverty. The other one is poverty. Some people will say, well, the greatest problem is poverty. And the problem of insecurity exists because of poverty. And the Buhari government seems to really be at its wit's end in trying to tackle this. How will the 4 years, do you think, will look like?
I am a bit pessimistic a bit pessimistic because I don't see a president who demonstrates or exudes the urgency of the moment. One of the most disturbing examples I can easily point to was that when our president was re-inaugurated, even if it was just for 1 minute, this issue of look straight into a camera. This issue of security and the flippant, needless loss of lives, especially when the unfortunate phenomenon has even come as far as your own natal neighborhood. And when he didn't do that, I was, you know what? I don't know. You're a bit more distant than me. I don't know if you can name any polity on the face of the earth where a president was inaugurated or re-inaugurated and he forsook that element of using the opportunity
what
of the moment.
What Americans call the bully pulpit.
The bully pulpit to
engage.
Encourage. It's usually used to encourage. That was why people laid hard on Trump when it was like he was mismanaging the fantastic opportunity of using that bully pulpit to encourage. But
my favorite journalist, Roger Rosenblatt, once wrote an essay when he was in Time magazine. He said, in general elections or presidential elections, people look to the skies. In off-year elections, people look to the streets. So it was an opportunity for people to soar.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
To say, you know, that was when people like Kennedy gave their best speeches, you know, and then they used it to rouse the nation.
Have nothing to fear
but
fear
that was Delano Roosevelt.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who came in on the back of a major global recession. People killing themselves, people losing,
jumping from 10-story buildings.
10-story building. And you know what? That rank supreme, and you know, ask not what your country can do for you.
Ask what you can do for your country. That was Kennedy.
Yeah. You know, using that, the opportunity of that ceremonial, the opportunity of that occasion.
Obama had his own too during the presidential elections. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. And given the enormousness of the challenge that we are facing now, we need a president that will be a bit more. So my fear is those around him, those so close to him, who could allow the unorthodox circumstance of the president not giving a speech after his inauguration to happen. Is it?
Maybe it was due to the fact that he wanted to play down May 29 for June 12. But I don't see any reason for that. Because May 29 is a different kettle of fish from June 12.
Totally different.
May 29 is to tell us, you get out of poverty, we handle insecurity, we will do that, we will make sure that your power is better, education, this is what we are going to make sure that education is good, we are going to be get some of the best universities in the world, and so on and so forth, get your clinics going, and so on. June 12 is supposed to be an affirmation of the idea of democracy, that will follow the rule of law, people will be free to express themselves, the vote is sacrosanct, things like that. Those are the ideas of June 12.
I have a challenge I want to give your viewers. If anybody could name that presidential occasion where the newly inaugurated or re-inaugurated president did not give a speech affirming what he or she intends to do with that office, I would love to see the tape and I have a present for whoever.
Well, he gave an interview in which he said that he was going to make sure that
on the podium.
No, just an interview in which he said that maybe that is his own replacement for speech.
For me, one of the reasons that we have not seen the kind of performance that most of us I've always expected, is that it's almost as though those around the president treat him as the cardinals will treat the Pope.
Yeah.
Or as school prefects will relate with an average principal when we're in school. Even our kids these days, they tend to be a bit more free-spirited than we were. You remember the days we were in school?
Yeah.
The principal was like a demigod, and
you had to fear it.
That diffidence gap is too wide for my liking.
I think the problem with us today is that we have not really owned our democracy. We do not know what kind of country we want to be. Do we want to be a federal country, a federalist state? Do we want to shed our monarchical origins? If we want to embrace freedom, how do we define freedom? Why do we have a situation where we don't have people who can take care of our mineral resources? I was in Bakrin Ladi, and I was on my way to the airport in Plateau State, and I saw people gathered over a wide expanse of
breaking rocks.
So I asked them, what are they? Is that a market?
Breaking rocks the primitive way.
No, what they were doing. He said they were mining. Mining tin. That was what they were doing.
As primitive.
And then this is because we have not learned a way to take advantage of our mineral resources, which are everywhere in the world. China just said that what they call the rare earth minerals, like clay balls and things like that they are going to use it to fight the United States and so on, because they will deprive them. We have all of them here. Even in Ekiti, you have it in Lagos here. You have different kinds of
I
minerals.
want to slightly disagree.
But because we do not have a federal system where every unit will take care of its own mineral resources, it points out to one of the indicators of a failure.
I want to slightly disagree, without not being too distant from where you stand now. I am one who believes that the degree to which we enrich the knowledge and the skills, capacities of the human element will instruct how we tap and use mineral resources.
No. I disagree, because we're winding up. Yeah, go ahead.
And fundamentally, no society overemphasizes the importance of minerals as we do that is great in the world. Yeah. All societies that are great in the world
is the brain. But in Nigeria,
they emphasize
the mind,
the skills, the mind, knowledge and skills.
But the mind is not sufficient. It must have the values
it
must have the values. That's why they say Jack was sent to school to learn to be a fool. So you must have the knowledge. But if you don't have knowledge with a British education, with a strong value system.
With a British education, Jack was sent to school to become a fool.
Yeah.
With a German education system where 70% end up in apprenticeship and 30% in university, which is the reverse in England, Jack was sent to school to build an engine that the Chinese cannot beat. Yet, and you know what? In some areas, the Chinese still import some engines from Germany. Because Jack was sent to school.
You forget. Anyway, this is the matter of now. You forget that the most inventive nations in the world, in the history of the world, are both the United States and Britain. So, it is about the education.
It's about education.
Yes, and they created the best empires.
And the human being.
And the human beings. But the values are at the rock. Because we don't have values, we don't know. If you don't have the values, you don't even know what to teach. Anyway, it has been an interesting look at our democracy 20 years after. So thank you for watching the program today. You can catch up with my published columns on www. samomashaye.com. Also follow me on Twitter. My handle is @samomashaye. And until next time, be good.